They say revenge is a fire that burns the hand that holds it, and no one understands this better than a Sigma male. When he's wronged, he doesn't chase retaliation, he doesn't plot comebacks, and he doesn't waste energy proving a point. His silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. He knows that the moment he steps away from the battlefield, the other person is left fighting with their own conscience, their own insecurity, their own consequences. A Sigma's strength comes from detachment, not retaliation, from choosing evolution over destruction. And that choice changes everything. Before we begin, comment above it if you've ever walked away instead of seeking revenge. And tell me this, do you believe walking away is more powerful than getting even? Make sure to subscribe to Silent Wise for more deep Sigma psychology. He knows revenge wastes energy that could be used for growth. A Sigma male understands early that revenge is a trap disguised as justice, a cycle that consumes the mind and drains the spirit long before it ever brings satisfaction. While others burn their nights rehearsing arguments, plotting comebacks, replaying insults like wounds that demand repayment, he steps back and asks himself a question most people never consider. What does chasing this actually give me? And every time, the answer is the same: nothing but exhaustion. He's seen how people become prisoners to the very emotions they claim to be mastering, how they sacrifice their future to keep feeding a moment from the past. So instead of engaging, he redirects that energy inward, turning hurt into fuel and betrayal into clarity. His silence isn't avoidance, it's investment. He knows that every hour spent obsessing over someone who wronged him is an hour stolen from the life he's building. He has watched revengers age themselves with bitterness, watched them orbit the person they hate as if hatred were gravity, watched them become defined by the very thing they want to destroy. That fate terrifies him far more than any insult or disrespect ever could. Because a Sigma refuses to let someone else's actions hijack his evolution. He understands that revenge ties him to the wrongdoer, keeps him at the same level, forces him to move backward just to land an emotional blow that rarely lands the way people imagine. He doesn't mistake pain for purpose. He doesn't confuse reaction with strength. He doesn't let someone else dictate the direction of his growth. Instead, he pours everything into himself: the focus, the discipline, the rebuilding, the reinvention. While others look outward for payback, he looks inward for power. And in time, his transformation becomes the very outcome revenge seekers dream about. The people who tried to hurt him watch him rise without their names ever crossing his lips. They realize he didn't need to fight them to surpass them. He didn't need to retaliate to win. By choosing growth over vengeance, he creates a distance they can't close, a silence they can't decode, and a version of himself they can't reach. That's why a Sigma never wastes energy on revenge, because every step he takes forward is an outcome no retaliation could ever match. He lets karma and natural consequences do the work for him. A Sigma male understands something most people never learn until life forces the lesson onto them. No one escapes their own behavior. Every action plants a seed, and every seed eventually grows into something undeniable. So when someone wrongs him, disrespects him, or tries to manipulate him, he doesn't react with rage or chase after justice. He steps back, not out of weakness, but out of certainty. He knows the universe has a way of circling back on people, amplifying their intentions and returning them in forms no human revenge could ever replicate. He has seen it too many times. The liar trapped by their own stories, the manipulator exposed by their own inconsistencies, the selfish person abandoned by the very people they once exploited. Instead of engaging, he simply watches the cycle unfold, detached, calm and unbothered. A Sigma doesn't need to play judge or executioner because he understands the psychological weight of consequences. People who harm others always carry something dark inside them. Insecurity, fear, envy, instability, and that alone is punishment. It corrodes their choices, poisons their relationships, and creates chaos wherever they go. He doesn't have to lift a finger because their own patterns will eventually collapse under their weight. He trusts this pattern more than he trusts confrontation. His silence is not surrender. It is confidence in a system far more accurate than personal retaliation. The universe keeps receipts in ways the human mind can't predict. When someone chooses deceit, disrespect, or betrayal, life eventually mirrors that energy back to them. A Sigma knows this with absolute certainty. And here's the unspoken truth. When a Sigma stays silent, the person who hurt him begins to crumble under the weight of their own actions. They expect conflict, argument, emotional reaction, something to reassure them they still hold power. But he gives nothing. No anger. No negotiation, no validation, just a void they are forced to face. That void becomes the mirror that exposes them, the silence that amplifies their guilt, the distance that reveals their true character. While they spin in the chaos they created, he continues moving forward, untouched and unscarred. His life expands while theirs contracts. He evolves while they repeat. And eventually, the consequences he allowed to unfold speak louder than any revenge he could have delivered. That is why he trusts karma, because it always finishes the job. He refuses to give his enemies emotional control through retaliation. A Sigma male understands a truth most people never recognize until they've already destroyed their own peace. The moment you retaliate, you hand over power. Revenge is emotional currency, and the person who draws the reaction becomes the one who dictates the terms. That is a game a Sigma will never play. He knows that reacting, especially in anger, binds him to the very person he wants to detach from. It keeps him in their orbit, keeps him acknowledging them, keeps him emotionally invested in their existence. Instead, he chooses the opposite path, emotional non-participation. When someone tries to provoke him, when they insult him, betray him, or attempt to manipulate him, he doesn't lean forward, he leans back. His detachment is strategic, not passive. He understands that refusing to react strips the other person of control they desperately seek. They wanted chaos, argument, or emotional collapse. What they get is silence. His refusal to retaliate isn't forgiveness, and it isn't softness. It's sovereignty. The Sigma knows that anyone who tries to hurt him is driven by their own insecurity, envy, or desperation. Retaliating would elevate them, validate them, give them the significance they never earned. Instead, he treats them like background noise, stripping them of emotional value. When he doesn't react, their moves lose meaning. Their attempts to provoke him collapse under their own weight. And slowly, they realize they can no longer influence his thoughts or emotions. That realization destabilizes them more than any revenge could, because now they are powerless. Now their behavior reflects only on them. Now they are forced to confront the emptiness behind their actions. Meanwhile, the Sigma preserves his emotional energy like a resource too valuable to waste. He focuses on his path, his goals, his evolution. He channels the intensity others would spend on retaliation into self-mastery and future building. In doing so, he ensures the person who tried to hurt him becomes irrelevant, not because he punished them, but because he outgrew them so completely that they no longer exist in his world. And that is the deepest, most unshakable form of power, the kind that cannot be provoked, manipulated, or redirected. By refusing to retaliate, a Sigma makes one thing unmistakably clear: emotional control belongs to him alone. He understands silence destroys egos faster than confrontation. A Sigma male knows that when someone disrespects him, they expect a reaction: anger, defense, an argument, anything that proves they struck a nerve. Confrontation gives them exactly what they want, evidence that they hold power. But silence removes the oxygen from their fire. Nothing destabilizes an inflated ego faster than being met with total indifference. A Sigma's silence is not avoidance, it is a precision weapon. It denies his opponent the validation they were hunting for. It steals their momentum. It forces them into their own thoughts, where insecurity begins to echo louder than anything he could have said. Instead of engaging in emotional warfare, he simply steps back and lets their ego collapse under its own weight. People fueled by arrogance expect resistance. They cannot process emptiness. That emptiness becomes a mirror reflecting their insecurities, their intentions, their failures. And the Sigma knows the mind is far more vicious than any external punishment. His silence is surgical. Confrontation gives the other person a chance to rebuild their narrative, to justify their behavior, to twist the story in their favor. But silence robs them of that opportunity. Suddenly, their attempt to provoke him looks desperate. Their disrespect looks childish. Their aggression reveals fragility rather than dominance. And because he offers no emotional response, they are left battling only themselves. The longer his silence lasts, the more their confidence cracks. They begin replaying their words, questioning their choices, wondering why he isn't reacting, and subconsciously exposing their own weaknesses. A Sigma understands that people who seek conflict depend on attention for survival. When he provides none, they suffocate in the vacuum. Meanwhile, he remains untouched. He spends zero energy explaining himself, defending himself, or lowering himself to their level. Silence protects his dignity while dismantling theirs. It forces observers to see the situation clearly. Without a reaction, the aggressor looks unhinged, and the Sigma looks composed. Over time, that contrast alters the entire dynamic. People naturally gravitate toward quiet strength and recoil from loud insecurity. The Sigma doesn't need to prove anything. Silence proves it for him. And that is why he chooses it, because it not only ends conflicts faster, but it ensures he never loses control of the narrative. His silence isn't a retreat. It's domination without noise. He outgrows the situation instead of sinking to the level that hurt him. A Sigma male understands that every conflict, every betrayal, every disrespectful moment presents him with two roads. One that drags him downward into the pettiness that created the problem, and one that elevates him beyond it entirely. Most people choose the first path because ego demands satisfaction. They want to win the argument, return the insult, prove a point, or assert dominance. But a Sigma knows that stepping into the mud only makes him indistinguishable from those who threw it. Instead of reacting, he rises. He studies the situation with calm detachment, asking himself what the experience is revealing about the environment, the relationship, and himself. Pain, for him, becomes information. Disrespect becomes clarity. Betrayal becomes a boundary. Rather than degrading himself to match someone else's low vibration, he uses the moment as a pivot, a signal that he has already surpassed the situation in maturity, in vision, and in internal strength. He recognizes that some conflicts are beneath him simply because they cannot coexist with the future he is building. To fight back would mean anchoring himself to a story he has already outgrown. While others fight to protect their pride, he protects his evolution. He channels his energy into improvement, discipline, and forward momentum. And something powerful happens when he does this. The situation that once seemed overwhelming becomes too small for him. The people who hurt him lose relevance. Their opinions dissolve. Their actions stop mattering. He doesn't rise above them to feel superior. He rises because he refuses to live in a state of emotional poverty. While they repeat their patterns, he shifts into an entirely different league where their behavior can no longer reach him. His growth becomes the silent answer, the unspoken revenge, the undeniable proof that he never needed to respond in the first place. Outgrowing the situation is not avoidance, it is mastery. It means he knows exactly who he is and refuses to let anyone pull him away from that identity. It means he values peace more than proving a point. It means he trusts time, progress, and self-elevation more than emotional reactions. And with each step forward, the distance grows. One day, he looks back and realizes the conflict didn't break him, it sculpted him. The people who wronged him remain exactly where he left them, stuck in cycles he refused to repeat. His life expands. His mindset sharpens. His path clears, and the situation that once demanded his reaction becomes nothing more than a reminder of how far he has already risen. He believes becoming better is the ultimate form of closure and victory. A Sigma male refuses to let conflict, betrayal, or disrespect define the end of his story. For him, closure is never found in confrontation, revenge, or forcing someone to understand the pain they caused. Closure comes from evolution, from transforming into someone so far beyond the version of himself that was hurt, the past simply loses its grip. While others obsess over apologies, retaliation, or vindication, he pours everything into self-improvement. He understands a truth most people overlook. Becoming better is the one outcome no enemy can deny, distort, or escape. Growth is irreversible. Progress is undeniable. When he chooses to elevate instead of retaliate, he replaces emotional wounds with purpose, clarity, and a future that invalidates every attempt to break him. He knows that the most powerful revenge is living a life that proves he was never truly damaged by what happened, only motivated. When he focuses on his goals, strengthens his mind, improves his environment, and builds a life aligned with his highest standards, the people who once underestimated him begin to feel the impact of their actions without him saying a word. They watch him rise while they remain trapped in their old patterns. They see him change in ways they can't understand or replicate. The distance he creates becomes both a mirror and a message. You no longer have access to the person you tried to hurt. This quiet elevation destroys more egos than confrontation ever could. Becoming better also gives him emotional closure, not because he forgets what happened, but because he no longer needs anything from it. He doesn't need apologies. He doesn't need acknowledgement. He doesn't need revenge. His transformation replaces the wound with wisdom and the bitterness with direction. That is why he sees growth as victory, because it ends the story on his terms. By choosing to evolve, he breaks the cycle entirely. He proves to himself that pain cannot hold him, that betrayal cannot define him, and that disrespect cannot shape the man he becomes. In the end, his success speaks louder than any argument, and his transformation becomes the final chapter, one written from strength, not anger. When a Sigma male chooses growth over revenge, silence over chaos, and evolution over ego, he steps into a version of himself that no one, not the ones who hurt him, not the ones who doubted him, can touch. Detachment becomes clarity. Progress becomes power. And the life he builds becomes the proof that he never needed to fight small battles to win the war. His transformation is the closure, and his future is the answer. If this message hit you somewhere deep, Take a second and reflect. Which part of your life needs growth instead of reaction? And more importantly, what would happen if you stopped chasing explanations and started building the next version of yourself? Comment the word evolve if you're ready to rise above everything that once tried to break you. And subscribe to Silent Wise for more insights into the minds of Sigma males.